Saying your phone for a second.
Some.
Okay, let's bring it up. We're gonna call the Pownal Select Board meeting to order on Thursday, September 20th. We're at 7 PM for the agenda approval, the public comments, approval of the minutes from 9/13, warrants, mail, town administrators report. He's gonna approve job descriptions for the wastewater treatment facility, discussion on personnel policies, status of the auditor position, status of lister's position, Hoosick River cleanup, follow-up on liability insurance, fiscal year 1920 budget schedule, budget report, Bennington County Regional Commission, municipal planning grant, status of state study on Pownal water system, roadside trash, economic committee, under old business, general town office discussion, and we're gonna set our meeting weeks that we'll be meeting for the 2 times a month. Under new business, we're gonna talk about contracts with sheriffs and contract negotiations with town office buildings, and they'll probably be executive sessions simply because they're contractual, but we'll get there when we get there. Okay. Need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Anything to be added?
You've already added all these things. But
Yep. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thanks, Bob. Okay, public comment. Any public comments tonight?
Just
No.
appreciation that you're discussing the town plan,
Okay.
or the town office, not the town plan.
Okay, approval was 9/13/18.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on it? All those in favor say aye.
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 Warrants. Payroll ending 9/21/18 in the amount of $10,447.97. Accounts payable ending 9/21/2018 in the amount of $17,674.37. The 2 large things here is Innovative Municipal Pro. That was something for the road crew. When I looked in
What was
here,
that?
Municipal Pro, there was some sort of chemical or something they got. I looked at it, that was 3,216, and then TAM was 5,000, and the IRS was 3,000. If you wanna know more about what that was, I came across it in here and saw it. Right there, can you tell me what that is?
Magnesium.
So what?
It's the,
Magnesium, isn't it?
That's what I
magnesium
thought.
chloride.
Yeah, it's the mag, yeah.
Okay, that's the company.
Yes, we're not using sodium anymore, we need mag.
Okay. And that was 3216. So, again, that was accounts payable in the amount of $17,674.37. That's your warrants. What's your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Move to approve, did you?
Yep.
Get a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 I will have our town administrator go through the mail and then do his
Mr.
report.
Chairman, first in the mail, I have a request for excess weight permit from RN Bacon LLC. I requested approval.
And Joe's already signed off on everything? Yep. Okay. What's your pleasure, guys?
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, any discussion on it? All those in favor say aye.
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 Thanks, Bob.
The second is correspondence from Bennington County Solid Waste Alliance. We are going up on the 26th for a meeting, myself and Tom Shuey. I will be attending that. Also, I have Melissa Collins has resigned as an auditor. Recommend that you accept her resignation with regret.
The motion to do that?
Motion to accept the resignation with regret.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the
Aye.
last, I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. The last item is something I'd like to do more of. Becky Levine is manager of our rescue squad, and she has just achieved status as a licensed paramedic. That's a heck of an achievement. It's an asset to our community. She's an asset to the community. Awful lot of work, and we should be very proud of her.
I'll accept the motion to congratulate her on her.
I
Achievement?
motion to congratulate Becky Levine on her achievement.
Second.
Any further discussion? We're very glad to see people working in our town and making these achievements. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thanks, Bob. Okay, down to your report at this point.
Yes, wastewater systems, assistant chief operator job description has been done, and this was developed by Darcy, and I've reviewed it, and I recommend approval.
Get a motion to approve.
Motion, move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Discussion on any of it? All those in favor say aye.
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 The next is wastewater systems maintenance mechanic and wastewater operator job description. Again, written by Darcy. I request permission to approve,
Move to approve.
Second.
passing it for signature. Down.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 City state?
20th.
Next would be discussion on personnel policy. It was given to you last week. I answered Ms. Dewar's question. Is there any other questions, concerns? Have you reviewed it? And
Yeah, I have a few things.
sure,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the confidentiality, so that must be a New York State thing, so, just to
Yeah,
say
we
what my
clarified that.
question, what the clarification was that, if there is an accusation of sexual harassment, there is, an effort to be made
correct.
to keep the person who is making the claim confidential.
It
But
would be,
it may be that they have to be, their name has to be out. There was a drug screening.
yes, we're,
So, drug screening, now we have a drug screening, but marijuana is now legal in this state. So, does the drug screening include marijuana screening?
I believe it does, does it not?
DOT does.
DOT.
Do we,
DOT, Federal Department of Transportation.
Commercial driver's license.
are they also tested for alcohol then? Are they required
Yes.
not to drink alcohol?
Yes.
Of course.
So, but does it have to be out of your system for a certain amount of time, or is it a drug screening to see if you are ever a user?
There's a whole
Well,
written
there's-
plan.
Yeah, there's a whole,
The state follows a set program that they do their testing, certainly for the CDL. And that doesn't mean that we, as a town, couldn't decide to have someone tested that's an employee of our town other than with the CDL. Just because it's legal doesn't mean that you can come to your job
No.
in a way not to be able to perform.
I'm not
it.
saying that at all. I'm saying that marijuana stays in your system longer than alcohol does.
Very much.
And so if you're drug tested for marijuana that you smoked 2 days ago and it's not affecting you because you're no longer high off of marijuana, that is actually legal for you to do, and I have a problem with that being,
well, the
So it
caveat
might be
being
a
it's not
state
legal.
thing? I'm just curious.
It's not legal for the CDL license under Federal Department of Transportation, so that,
to ever,
those, even though it's licensed in the state, if those folks want a CDL license and operate, they can't use,
ever.
ever.
And that's a state law?
That's federal law.
Federal.
That is a
Ah,
federal law.
interesting. So how does state law trump federal law when it's okay.
It usually
So that's a
does.
bigger than a select board conversation, okay.
Yes.
I wanted to ask about that.
You bet.
Being one that approves marijuana being legal in this state. And what about medical marijuana? Can you not be on any kind of medical marijuana?
That
and
would
in
be,
that-
that would be a determination, you can't drive CDL under the influence. But correct me if I'm wrong, if you have a prescription from a medical doctor, they has to say that if it shows up in the system, they are not under the influence. I don't.
We have a written policy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I've got to say, and the
Okay.
state has a policy as well, the basic, it's not just marijuana. People are on different drugs for
Correct.
different reasons, whether it's
Yeah.
back injuries or other things.
Exactly.
And they're gonna show up, but there's a formula that the state goes through and a process that when they test somebody, they'll ask those questions and see
Okay,
whether it's
Yeah.
valid or
The
invalid.
employee has to declare it, has to come in and say, look, I'm taking an opioid for back pain. And the doctor has written a letter saying that prescription, the levels that that person's taking is not going to have an adverse effect on the performance.
okay. So I just want to make sure that we recognize that as well.
Well, I think we're required by law.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what I'm asking. I'm a layman, you know, I don't know.
No, very good questions, by the way.
So, my other, can I just go through all of mine? and then
Sure,
people can go?
absolutely, that's why we're here.
The 30-minute lunch. So,
That's-
so a work day is actually a 7.5 hour day versus a 7 hour day with an hour lunch. Has that always been that way?
We pay for lunch.
We don't. It says unpaid time for lunch.
And that's up for your discussion, however you folks want to do that.
I feel like, I mean, usually a work day is 9 to 5 with an hour of lunch in any kind of,
Well, a half hour is based on how you're required to give a half hour. The thing I guess I would say is that I'm gonna pick on the road crew. My belief is they work 7 to 3:30,
That's right.
so their half hour isn't
Their
paid
half
for.
hour is already added
7
in
to
there.
3:30. 5, it's still 8 hours, so 7 to 3:30, so that's 8.5 hour
That's
day.
right.
So it's an 8 hour paid day.
That's
That's right.
Okay, and they're fine with that, but what about the folks in the office, like, so 9, well, there is only one folk in the office that's a 9 to 5, is that right?
We don't close, we do not close for lunch. We serve people during the lunch hour.
So if you are serving people during a lunch hour, and you're sitting taking your 30 minutes, and someone comes in and you need to acknowledge them, then I don't think it's right that that's unpaid time. If you're on the clock
She's
while
paid.
you're,
I
it says
am paid.
it says unpaid on the.
I know it says that.
So
but
then I'm questioning that, and I'd like it to be changed to paid. If Linda's expected to be here eating lunch and speak to the public if they come in, then she should be paid for that half hour, not be unpaid, in my opinion. Or she can leave and not be expected to meet with the public.
Well, she
during
is
that time.
paid, that's the
I
first.
also accept sewer payments. A lot of people come in during the lunch hour because it is their lunch hour to pay their sewer bills.
So I'd like to change that. The personnel policy says it's unpaid, and I would like it to change.
For all employees.
Regular
policy.
work hours for persons employed at town hall or other town offices shall be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, with 30 minutes of unpaid time allowed for lunch.
Well, there should be something there for an exception to the rule. Because you could have some people that are 9 to 5, I just don't know.
It is all other employees are unpaid unless the road foreman or town administrator directs otherwise. If you want to change it to paid, be happy to do that. That's what we're here for, discussion.
It's paid, I should say paid.
Paid.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I'll change it. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Paid, make it what it is.
Yeah, that's not, that Linda doesn't have to work and then not get paid for it, I don't. Okay. So then this makes sense, after 40 hours, you go to time and a half,
Right.
because your work week is indeed 40 hours, going 9 to 5, okay. So I was questioning that because of this half hour of unpaid, but now it doesn't say that. Regarding outside employment, employees will disclose their intent to do so in writing. I don't think that that's our, I think if someone wants to take a second job, they shouldn't have to get permission from the town to do so.
Well, actually, ma'am, from the workers' comp standpoint, there's laws that say Jason decides that he wants to go do some work on the outside and injures himself and can't perform his job, his regular job. He has to declare that, or if better yet, if long-term occupational health, he goes out on an injury, and let's say we're paying that workers' comp that's against our claim. In reality, he might have done that at the other job. It's splitting hairs. So those decisions have to be made, or we have to know if he's doing the same type of work on the outside, or outside of our employment, and he's developing an occupational disease or injury, and we end up paying that, we have a case to go back and say, well, maybe not, you know. And
Absolutely.
It becomes.
I mean,
so-
that can happen, someone at home can trip and then they can say that happened in the office. So, and a second job or outside work doesn't necessarily mean it's
My-
the same kind of work.
My work requires me to fill out a form every year of what I do outside of my work.
To let you know, let them know,
And
this
that's-
says obtain prior clearance. I think that's an,
Well,
bit of a-
if they look at mine, it says clearly, if it's something of a conflict, that they will tell you to quit.
if it's a conflict.
So they have to know what I'm doing, and they can either approve or disapprove me taking that type of position or job.
I have
Because their
always
concern is worried
freelanced
about
with
conflict.
every job I've ever had. I have always freelanced outside of my job, and I have never had to get clearance from an employer to do so.
Well,
And I would
I've
object
never-
if I had to.
I've never been,
So I just want to raise
I've
it.
never been questioned about anything I do, but I do a lot of things outside of my normal work.
Right.
The point is, if, look, poor Jason, I'm using him again. He goes out and he works as a security guard overnight, and he comes to work and he's tired, and it starts to jeopardize his job performance. If we know up front that that's what he's doing, you say, yeah, absolutely, if you want to do that, go ahead, but, you know, you're going to be tired. We're still going to expect you to perform during the day. And again, it's, whatever you folks decide, the rationale for it is ingrained in a lot of the workers'
Well,
compensation
but
law.
what's the fear? I guess is the question. If it's there and somebody says something, the fear is that somebody's gonna say someone can't work somewhere,
That's the fear.
you know.
You have to
it-
obtain prior clearance, it says.
Yeah.
And I
So
don't
the
think
fear-
that's-
So the
I don't
fear
like
is
that
that
language.
you, well, maybe it should say, not just say,
Just say
that you-
disclose.
well, I'd say,
I'm going to use
Something- I'd say
Linda as an
something to
example.
be
I don't
re-
know, just because you're sitting there and you are a full-time employee. If Linda takes a catering job on a weekend, I don't think she has to get permission from the town to do so. That's how I read obtain prior clearance. I don't think that it is our right to tell, we don't own our employees. What they're due on their own time is their own business.
Actually, ma'am, respectfully, it's public service. Public service is somewhat different than civilian employment.
Mhm.
So that's my experience in all my public life, that you've had to say, hey, I'm doing another job. And if the employer says, hey, you can go ahead and do it, but it can't affect this job. And if you're doing another job, again, just that one portion, occupational health, it starts to split hairs whether he obtained the disease by working here or he obtained the disease by working there, and now we're in conflict. So it's at your pleasure, whatever you
where
like.
did this personnel policy come from? Is this the VLCT?
Yes.
Bob, do you have any comments on that?
No, I don't. I think, well, other than Michael's making some good points, I agree with what he's saying.
Yeah, I just know that I'm asked every single year, even though I've been working there forever, I have a form I have to fill out for that specific reason. And I think a lot of places do that now, and I never gave it any thought why, but part of it would be what you said. There's a workman comp issues.
Well, that's why you
There's a conflict issue. There's a lot of things that employees won't find out until something occurs unless they have some information beforehand.
I'm going to just stand that I object to obtain prior clearance. I
I think
object
I've got
to
to
the you need
I've got to
permission.
support that also.
We're not babysitters, they're not our, I mean, I fought tooth and nail when I was at Williams College about administrative staff being able to do other work for the college and get paid for it because they expected us to volunteer our time, and I said,
course.
no way.
So
Did you
So
have
I won.
something to say, Rosemary?
I was just gonna add that. I think there is a rational reason for the town as an employer to know.
To know,
But to have the power to say you can't take that job,
exactly.
I think is really crossing a line.
I agree.
That
That's
it
what I-
would be
that's my
hard
point.
to,
So,
I mean, I think if you choose to go that way, you should get legal counsel before you make a move to do that.
actually, this was went through legal.
Legal already went
Yeah.
through this. I guess the question.
As a person, I would hesitate to take a job that had that stipulation up front.
Me as well.
Well, you could always just strike the part that says obtain
That's all I'm
prior
asking.
clearance.
That's
Leave the rest
Right.
there, because then you know that somebody's doing it.
That's the
Right.
3 words I
The
want to take
knowledge,
out.
you know, be informed, but not have the power to say yes or no.
Correct. That's, I think the disclose is fine. I think obtain, I just want those 3 words removed. Obtain prior clearance.
What's your thoughts on this, Ronnie?
I do what I want on my off time.
Thank you.
I always have.
And that's fine.
For what little you get.
Whatever. This is exactly what's supposed to happen, so
Yep.
whatever
Okay,
your
so-
pleasure.
So it looks like the majority of the board feels that that piece should be struck, the obtain prior clearance, but the rest stays. Are you okay with that, Bob?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, from my standpoint, employers do have the right to dictate the terms of employment, and that's true in the private sector, and it's also true in the public sector. So, you know, there's points on both sides. I have no problem with striking those 3 words.
Okay. So that's where the board's in agreement, strike those 3
Got it.
words.
It will be
Thank you.
stricken.
Okay?
Sexual harassment, I think that's the one that I have. The medical marijuana I asked. And then, I respectfully, as the only woman on the board, request that every time it's written Board of Selectmen, it may be written that way in the VCR, BR, BO, whatever it is. But I would respectfully ask that it is the select board.
Well, I apologize, ma'am.
No, it's okay.
I thought I had already changed them all to select board versus board of selectmen.
The one on page 9,
Have you found-
evaluations, is the one I spotted.
You found a misprint?
Oh, so I'll go through it to
He
make.
can do a search.
Yeah, I'll do a
online.
search for that. Then I changed all of those to
Change.
select board versus selectmen.
Thank
That's
you, I
fine.
appreciate that.
I'll go back and make sure that's done.
And that's all I have. That's my wordsmithing of your,
And I very
Otherwise,
much appreciate you
beautiful
taking
personnel
the,
policy.
thank you for
Thank you.
taking the time to go through that.
Okay. Would you wish the board to move on this tonight with the changes that have been recommended?
I
Or
have
not?
one thing to add. I noticed that the holidays didn't match up.
oh,
Page
Okay.
3 and page 9 or something.
11,
Three.
Are they different on each page?
paid holidays, 11.
Okay. Can I go through with you when
So the holidays
We'll
will be
correct it.
corrected also.
Misprint.
we'll
Yeah.
correct that.
Okay.
And I think I mentioned to you in the beginning, on the pre-employment, on the physical, that it would state occupational health.
Occupational, physical, okay.
And that would be in regards to pre-employment health screening.
So where are you at with this, guys? You wanna wait until it's all cleaned up and comes back?
Hey, Nelson, can I chime in?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, I would prefer that we waited until next week to vote on it because I'd like some time to go through it. Unfortunately, I'll make everybody aware that there was an issue with my new email address, and so I have not seen any emails that were sent from the TA or from or any reply all since August 15th in the new email. So I haven't seen this policy until late last night.
Okay,
If it's possible to put this off until next week, I would like to at least get a chance to review it.
that's fine. I have no trouble with that.
Bob, did you receive mine, Linda? Did you get an agenda?
No. Anything that was sent to select person 4, I did not receive until yesterday, and those go all the way back to 8/15. I didn't even have access to the new account until September 3rd, but then the forward wasn't set up correctly, so I didn't get any of the emails until yesterday.
I'm quite upset at that, and I will take care of that.
Well, I mean, it's and I don't, I don't fault anybody. Mistakes happen. That's fine. I have them now. I just don't want to have to vote on something that I haven't been able to look at.
I
Okay, so
appreciate
you're
that.
saying that it does work.
It works now. When I logged in last night, I went ahead and set up my forward,
I'm
and now
working
I
on
actually got access, so I can just do it right there.
Yeah, I had to forward mine, and it's okay. works.
I'm gonna go back to our IT person and say, hey, we gotta fix this ASAP.
And maybe the directions that get out, see, some of us knew how to do it, and others probably need to be stepped through it. Okay,
Yeah, and I was able to set up the forward. So I'm all set now, and I did discuss it with them via email yesterday. So I think we're all set. I mean, I don't want to make an issue of it. I just don't want to have to vote on something I haven't been able to read.
yeah, I think that the discussion should be is that, like using the phone that we're talking with you now, we need a written procedure that goes step by step when we're putting in something new that's electronic that these people have to use. Because some people will know how to do it, or some people will have Chuck sitting next to them to do it, and others will not.
I agree.
He actually, he sent an attachment with the step-by-step,
Yeah.
but
But if you
that's
don't-
not
but it-
for
No, but it
forwarding.
wasn't.
I didn't.
Just to be clear, it wasn't a matter of understanding how to do it. It was when it was initially set up. It was supposed to be auto forwarded to your Gmail account or to your private account until you got in and changed it.
So the
That's what
forwarding
wasn't
wasn't
done.
working.
So it wasn't a matter of understanding how to do it. I was able to fix it, but I was assuming that I was getting an auto forward, and I wasn't.
Yeah, I set my own up too. I didn't wait to see if it worked or not. I did that myself, so. First thing I did. Okay,
Do we have a meeting next week?
no, I don't think so. Next week's wastewater, no meeting next week. You're off the hook, Bob, there's no meeting
So-
next week,
So we'll vote on this in 2 weeks then.
in 2 weeks.
And I
Actually,
want
whenever the new
to
meeting
make sure
is.
that I mention that this is what we're supposed to be doing. This is gonna be our document, this is gonna be our personnel, because you folks are going through it and getting into the weeds and doing the right things. And I really appreciate that. The next on the list is the Hoosick River cleanup on the 29th. They have given us their liability insurance, so give it to Linda to have that on file, so that'll be going off on time. The next item that we have is the fiscal year 2019 and 20 budget schedule and goals. And idea is I really would like to keep the increase in the budget, total budget, to 3% or less. But whatever your goals are, let us know. I'm going to start on October 15th. October 30th, we're going to track ballot articles from our nonprofits. But October 15th, we're going to begin the budget process. We're going to start early, and we're going to move quickly. Whatever overarching policies you folks want me to maintain, you can think about that and let me know, or you see anything that you want to do differently.
Okay. Any comments on that, or do you guys want to just look at it and study it for a while, and then we'll talk about it again later? Thanks. What's next?
Budget report, fairly
I'm sorry,
simple.
Michael, did you?
Yes, ma'am.
You skipped over status of auditor and status of lister.
Oh, I
Do
beg
you
your
wanna
pardon, I
move that?
did. Okay, beg your pardon. Would like Ms. Priscilla Maxon to apply for the auditor position, and I would like a approval of that position, appointing her as auditor. And it's Ms. Priscilla Maxon. She's a
Can I get a
businesswoman in town,
motion?
resident.
I make a motion to appoint her.
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you very much.
So now we have one of three.
Right.
That was unanimous, by the way. So, okay.
We do have another lister on board. Do you remember her name? I beg your pardon, I don't remember.
Jody.
Jody.
That's the one we
You,
approved.
right, she's already in, she's
Jody
working.
Morrison.
Yeah, she's hit it running.
Thanks.
Excellent.
Uh,
So we still need 2 more auditors if anyone's out there.
please. As far as the budget report goes, we have received about 38%, almost 40% of our taxes. All our line items to date are under. What I caution, though, is as we move along, we're gonna start getting tight. And working with Linda and Ellen this morning, and we're gonna continue to work. We're gonna look at individual line items and how they're spent, and keep real good track of this, because I do not want to go over budget. So that'll be continuing. Bennington County Regional Commission has come out with their new budget. They are now going to be, their new budget is $173,980, and details are listed on the memorandum for your review. 2017-18 annual report is also distributed. Our share was $17,019.33, which we paid. And this too is for all of your review. That's the report on 2017-18.
Do we know what their increase was?
It's listed there. I think it's on the order of something maybe 5,000, if that. Wasn't much.
Michael, is that the SWIP, the Alliance budget?
No,
You're talking about?
the Alliance budget was in here. That's Bennington County, right?
Yeah. This is,
Yeah, they oversee that.
yeah, it says the
The
previous
solid
year.
waste.
This is
Yeah,
SWIP.
yeah,
This is
okay.
SWIP
Yeah.
year calendar.
So that's solid waste, that's
Okay.
transfer station.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's just the one that's,
Right.
Where is Glastonbury? It has 8 people. Anyone want to move to Glastonbury? they could use
I
some
don't know
more
if they got any
citizens.
houses there.
The select board is half of the
It
population.
used to be the family. It used to be the family. That may know.
Wow.
Okay, so basically, they went up almost 5,000 again.
5,000, yeah.
And do we know what the creep's been on this over these last, when you talk about budget and going up, you know, what's the cost that these guys and this thing is costing us more?
I don't know specific reasons, but I do know that waste disposal is going up. It's harder and harder to find places to take it and move it, particularly plastics. We're going to be forced into adjusting our fees. You and I have discussed that individually. 26, we'll find out exactly what that's going to look like and feel like.
Could you request from this group, the BCRC, to provide us with a 5-year budget schedule so we know what the last 5 years, how much we've gone up? I remember when we created this, we were trying to create it so it wouldn't cost us so much money.
I thought it was on the front, but is it on the,
For which one now? For the SWIP?
Yeah. I was looking for where we start from one year to the next. First year, second year, but they don't show you. What I'm asking for is, it's first year 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19. I would like to know what it was in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. What the cost has gone up. You know, they keep coming and telling us it's 5,000 this year. What was it last year, and what was it the year before?
I'll get that information.
This one.
I want that because of our budgeting planning, we should have a good idea and a handle of how that creep is. Because let's face it, over the years, we're handling waste and we know we're not charging a
Well,
whole lot of
We
money.
also know that over the next few years, each year there's new step occurs. Like, for instance, we're doing the composting now. That was mandatory. Set
Right.
up that, and I know there's been some other requirements also. I think in the next couple of years we got to go to clear bags also.
Clear bags, separating plastics more, and talking to the actual folks that do waste hauling. They're having trouble moving the stuff and getting places to put it. So
That's why the state changed the statute and the fact that paper can now go back into the waste stream.
I wasn't familiar with that statute, but
There's a lot of things, I read it through Vermont Digger, where they wanted a certain percentage. And what they've done is they've held off on that percentage for a little longer because you can't get rid of it.
you have that document I could read? or-
No, go to Vermont Digger and look it up on.
Vermont Digger, okay.
It was one of their stories that basically talked about how the municipalities weren't able to get rid of it.
Right. And that's fact.
Did I hear that we were going to discuss how we're going to address our fees for that as well?
Well, once we get an understanding of where we got to go with fees, how much, and then how it's going to be structured, what we're going to charge and what we're not going to charge.
Right, and that's just going to be a difficult decision, because as you increase the fees, you also get an increase in illegal dumping and an increase in cleaning up and cleaning up fees.
Which is another, yeah, that's
One of
another
your topics.
another topic for discussion at the end, and I think it's directly related.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yes, you're absolutely correct, and there's a couple strategies we need to talk about on doing that. So, we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. I hope we find out more on the 26th.
Yeah, okay.
The next is the municipal planning grant. It's complete to the extent that we still have to get a couple letters of endorsement. We have to have the resolution signed by the planning board. I'll tell you that Mr. Badger from Bennington County Regional Commission did a lot of heavy lifting on this, and great asset to me. He did a heck of a job, and I really appreciate it. We'll get that out before October 1st. The study on the Pownal water system, we know with the PFOA, I talked to the state yesterday. They're in process of actually writing the RFP for the study. And once that's out, they'll be sending it to us for review and discussion.
Okay.
And last item is roadside trash. At staff meeting, Joel and Tom noted that there is a lot of trash being, everything from mattresses to desks to boats, being taken out and left on the street corner with the assumption that we're just going to pick it up and take it. And that's not the case. That's not what we do. And that has to come to a close. And what I've done is I've looked at our bylaws, and it really doesn't, basically we're saying scrap or waste material may be stored at a solid waste disposal area, but it's not to be concealed, it's be concealed from view. No construction debris, scrap or waste may be stored on any lot unless it's 30 days to be allowed for removal of waste material. It really doesn't have a lot of teeth in it. So
It's not meant for people throwing stuff on the
Right.
roadside.
So I want to make sure that we know, that we express to our citizens that that's not a function of a town, and to take their property, their debris, and take it to the transfer station. We would appreciate that. Or we may have to consider some other measure.
Usually what they do is you'll have a town ordinance that's written. It's not a bylaw, and basically it's enforced by your sheriff and others, but it basically becomes a town ordinance, which basically says that if you're caught throwing trash beside the road, the fine is X. And that's how you go after it. But it's an ordinance, it's not a bylaw. Bylaws are more set up for when people are building businesses or construction or structures or so forth. What you're talking about is nuisance type behavior, and that's usually controlled by ordinances.
We've discussed it, so I'd like to give it a little bit of soak time before we
Yep.
do something.
It's sort of the same thing went on, that's why we have an ordinance now for large gatherings, because there was nothing in the bylaw that clearly stated anything about people having gatherings or that sort of function. And it became an ordinance, and we have, I don't think we have any ordinances now other than that one.
But I believe some of this concern is illegal dumping too. You know, someone
Yes.
tossing a mattress off the side of the road. Well, it's got to be picked up. I mean, I notice by your house on that corner, every time I go by there's something put there. There's a cupboard or there's something that's been.
Looked like an old stove or something was thrown out there the other day.
What I'd like to do is find out what other communities are doing, ask for some other ordinances to see how this has been tackled someplace else before we act.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
my,
and the key is when you ask, it's not that people are leaving stuff on their property, it's people throwing stuff beside the road and throwing it on other property. That's where you get into the ordinance issue and how you create it, so. Nope. Okay.
and I will continue to work on that. And that's all I have that
You
would
were
not
gonna-
be.
You're gonna
Bring us up to date.
Bring us up to date, because you had some people on the economic,
Oh,
That's some
oh,
applications
economic,
have-
yes. We have 4 people that have applied to the Economic Development Committee. I've interviewed 2 top shelf people, very smart. The other 2 I have to interview yet. We're still looking for people to join that committee. Once again, I want a wide array of diversity so that we get perspective of everyone. Want to make this wide open so we know how everyone's thinking and where we want to go. So we have a balance of opinion. And I encourage you, if you're interested in serving, please contact me.
Has this gone out on that newsletter, to the newsletter list?
It is not. I didn't see the wording until, as I was discussing earlier, I didn't see the wording until late last night because of the email situation.
It's on the
But I will
website.
send it out this weekend.
It's on the homepage of the website.
Also, so you can see it.
Will it make it, Bob, or is it going to be too late for that?
Well, it's a monthly newsletter, so I will be sending out a special edition that is just for the Economic Committee.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. Moving on. Old business. I'm gonna rearrange if the board's in improvement. Let's set the meetings first and then have the discussion on town office.
I agree with that.
One of the suggestions was that we meet the second Thursday of the month and the fourth Thursday of the month.
And then occasionally that fourth Thursday will be the wastewater meeting,
Yeah, one could be
If
back
needed.
to back.
if we even need it.
If we even need it.
But that's where we're doing it, and if we need special meetings, we'll schedule them on the other Thursdays. But we basically will have standard meetings, second and fourth.
So shall we, would we start that in October?
I would think so.
And would that mean we do meet next week? Or do we not meet for two?
You said in October,
Yes, next week is the 27th, so
Which
that's
is
next week's the
September.
4th.
but
But then we wouldn't have a meeting next week or the week after, and we wouldn't have a meeting until the second week of October.
yeah, 2 weeks
So
off.
we'd have 2 weeks off.
I don't think we have anything really pressing.
No.
So I motion that we move to the second and fourth.
Before you make that motion, nothing pressing, but the discussion on the town the town office with that.
We're having one tonight on that.
Right, but I'm wondering if you should wait to make the decision on how long before you have another meeting.
Well, we
till
can make a
after you-
special meeting about town office if we need to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I would, when we get to the town office discussion, remind me and I'll make a comment on what we probably should do with that for a
Okay.
meeting. All right, so it's the board's in agreement. I get a motion that we basically meet the second and fourth of each month.
So
I-
we'll.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Can we all stand up and do a happy dance now?
No.
Just to clarify, no meeting on the 27th. We're going to meet the second
And the fourth, right.
second in October. Well, not the date, second of October.
Second week of October and the
So
fourth.
what are those dates then for October?
I will tell you in 30 seconds. October 11th and 25th.
With that, go ahead, Bob.
Sorry, quick question. I got a little lost in that. When is our next select board meeting?
October 11th. Okay? That's the next meeting. Well, regular
All right.
meeting. I'm gonna have a discussion here in a minute, and we might do a special meeting, but that's our regular meetings. Our regular meetings are gonna be the second and fourth Thursdays of the month. That's the one that will broadcast to everybody that needs to know when we will regularly meet, so they know that we're here. Now, moving on to the town office discussion, there will be times when we'll have to have special meetings, and I think the town office discussion in time is gonna grow to the point that it's gonna need a meeting of its own. And basically, that would be a special meeting in my mind that we would have on a Thursday, have it filmed, and we'll have a much broader discussion on the town office. Because at the moment, we have our town administrator looking at several other options that are being presented. And at that time, we could bring something forward that actually has meat on the bone because we'll know it better. But tonight, the discussion about the town office discussion is, the floor is
So,
yours,
okay.
Jenny.
Well, I just want to put out in the world of select board and town what ideas are, and what's viable to be discussed and what's not viable to be discussed. So I've heard a bunch of different things. I've heard about revisiting the plans that were created a couple of years ago in a modified version of them.
Okay,
So that's one. I don't know much about that one since I wasn't on the select board, but
Would you
that's
like me
the
to
one.
just run through them?
He's
If
good.
you have a list, yeah, and
Yeah.
then, yeah, please, you do it. I would love that.
The first proposal would be built on this site, would be Hoscott Builders. And of course, to do drawings and schematic, they would want a little bit of money to do that. And they're very confident they could have it well under $750.
okay.
Is that the Sam Cottrell?
Yes, it is.
And that's with what design?
He's gonna design
He's gonna
it with
design
us.
it. We're gonna sit down and they're gonna be looking at the flow pattern of people coming through. We'll design it.
And that would be a brand new
Brand new
idea?
building.
Okay,
Yeah.
but a brand new building and a brand new idea, a brand new design, a brand new.
Correct.
Yes.
This is not the one that
Right.
was before.
That'll be,
This is not, doesn't have any connection to the blueprints that we've already paid to have designed.
no,
No.
no,
That- they're
but
in-
that's coming.
Oh,
That,
okay.
he'll go through these
Okay, okay,
discussions.
okay.
So that's one.
I'll be
Then
patient.
the second one is the Roost as a town hall. I went through, you want to wait till executive session to talk about the remainder of it, but
Well, basically, you went through it.
Through it and,
And talked with the owner about options, right?
yes.
Okay.
And next one is exactly what she had mentioned, and it's a proposal, a scaled down proposal of the architect that was originally part of the committee. Again, be a stick-built building over here. I got the Bruce Town option, and Hinsdale House is one that... Hillside, I keep screwing that up, I beg your pardon. Hillside House is an empty building. We toured it, it's a quite large building, it's right on the other side of the street from Stewart's, that's an option.
Okay.
Michael and I took
And the historical
And then,
And
of course, the
Historical
Historical Society's
option is there.
options there, yes.
So there's, it sounds like there's 4 to 5 options that are gonna be discussed and weighed, so that people out there can also hear those.
And
I
I'll,
know other people have brought up Studio Arts across the road here,
Oh, the antique,
I haven't
but-
heard that.
but it's, I'm just gonna say, I mean, because things that people, I mean, I'm getting emails all over the place from people, right? But I think that one is not a viable option due to its lack of septic and its lack of parking, and it's just not a viable,
most of the parking lot is actually the state right away.
yep, so, but I'm just saying
The
that
rest of-
that has been discussed, but it's not on the
Well,
table. It can't be
I
on the
think,
table.
I think the way we go from here, so people out there understand is, I would like to see us make a metrics of these options
Yeah.
and what the pluses and minuses of those options are. So when we do have a public discussion, we're able to basically have something that we put together based on fact that we found out about each place. And then we can say, this is the plus or the negative, and here's why. And then we'll go from there. And I think what your question was is, how soon were we gonna do that? And I think we need a special meeting to do that because of a vote coming up in early November.
Right, okay.
And
So,
probably.
so we have these options, and then, so then when we, once we have the matrix done, then what do we do with our options? Do we do a survey? Do we decide as a board which ones to?
When we get there, we'll make that decision,
So.
how we're gonna handle it.
I think that we as a board should tour all of these places. Michael and I went to, I said, this is not an official board thing. I called the Hillside House and said, can I come and see it? I'm one board member, but it's not an official tour. And then I invited Michael to join me. So we did that yesterday.
To be fair, some are simply proposals. I can't give you plus or minuses on something I don't see.
The things that I look at it for pluses and minuses, parking, space availability, utilities, there's things like that that are simple to be listed. I know we can't give all the information because you're gonna have to sit down with somebody and find out what the contractually they would do and what cost and so forth. Those things we don't have yet, but I think we can do the simplistic things that says, here's what it is, and we're taking the next step to look at this option. And at that point, we might be throwing options out. But we don't do that now, we need to get to there. And we need to be valid with our facts and what we're making choices for.
I would like to propose that we have a special meeting in October before the voting and make it get the elementary school or somewhere and have it be more of a town hall special meeting that more than 3 people can fit
I
to
have-
talk to us in our
I have-
tiny town hall.
And I think that's what I was saying earlier, it was the same thing. But I wanna make sure that we have something we can present, not just this, here's what we're looking at, here's what's going on. That's not,
Right, but
Productive.
some of that, right, I suppose you're right, you know, you wanna have some, but some of those, I think some of that is gonna involve a cost.
it might,
To have some
And-
hard numbers and some hard.
What I'm saying is,
figures.
I can't give you pluses and minuses on some of these until unless we pay them
That's right.
to do the plans.
we're going into a contract discussion here, right
Okay.
after we get through with this. And at that point, we'll know whether we're gonna spend money on some of them or not. And at that point, you'll have your next step.
Got
And
it.
and we'll go from there. I know you can't give that at this moment,
Mhm.
but you might be able to after we're done tonight.
And the
that's-
important thing to know is that there are options we are going to be discussing and presenting. There's not just one option, even though there's one option being voted on in November.
Clear enough?
Okay.
It was a question of what a yes or no vote does. That was on,
Yeah, and I thought it was pretty well answered on where I saw it, that basically that's the first step. You still gotta go through a bond and a whole bunch of other stuff before you ever get to where you're driving a nail.
so yes means you want us to continue with that as one of the options. No means take that option off the table
You got it.
and we continue with these other options. That's what yes, no means in that vote.
Yep. Okay. With that said, I think that covers the discussion of the town office discussion in the open.
We
The
will
con,
have some, what I'm gathering from this discussion, we will have some numbers on these other
Yeah.
things, cost, before this vote, anyway.
yes,
Correct?
Yeah.
yes,
Approximate, anyway,
I think you'd have to say approximate.
approximate.
that's correct. No different than what we've got,
That's right.
what we're voting
All
on.
right, that's, all right, that makes it clear to me. Now I can go back to sleep.
Any, Bob, you got anything to add before we go into executive session?
I know. Let's go to executive session.
Okay, I get a motion to go to executive session to talk about contracts with the sheriff.
So moved. And the,
Well, we've gotta come back out, and then we're gonna go
Oh.
back in and do contracts for negotiating
Got
town office.
Second,
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right.